All right, we're going to go ahead and call a city commission meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started with roll call.
Benson.
Here.
Brunick.
Here.
Hunoff.
Here.
Johnson. Minor.
Here.
Schramm.
Here.
Villanueva.
Present.
Weber.
Here.
Mayor Mosier.
Here.
City Manager Leon.
Here.
City Attorney Denherter.
Here.
Number 2 under routine business is to approve the minutes of the work session meeting of September 25th, 2023, and the regular meeting of September 25th, 2023. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on the minutes? Anybody in the public? All those in favor of approving the work session meeting minutes and the regular meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And anybody abstaining? All right, minutes passed. Number 3 under routine business is schedule of bills. What is your pleasure?
Move to pay the bills.
Second. We have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any commission discussion on that? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hunoff.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Mosier.
Aye. Motion carries. Number 4 under routine business is the city manager's report. So I will turn it over to City Manager Leo.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the Commission and public. Just a couple of things to bring to your attention. First of all, realizing it is a holiday, recognizing and honoring Indigenous people's place and their contribution in our shared story. So thinking about that today as we come together and do the business. Wanted to remind all of you that South Dakota Housing and Infrastructure Fund is going to, the board is going to meet tomorrow and to discuss 2 Yankton projects. They are submitted by Yankton Thrive, but that's the Manitou North project and Garden Estates. So that is happening, I believe, at 11 a.m. tomorrow. So once I hear the status of those projects, if awarded, I will make sure that I send an email out to you. Recently, at the South Dakota Municipal League, the City of Yankton was awarded a gold and platinum level safety award, which means we've met a number of statewide standards for safety for our employees, and also have are able to keep our work comp rates at a certain level. To be able to have that award. So not very many cities are able to do that, so great job to all our employees who make sure that we're thinking about loss control. If you would mind taking out your calendars here while I visit with you a little bit, we have to do a little bit of scheduling for December. So our first meeting in December is scheduled for Monday, the 11th, and I'm not sure that you all want to meet on the 25th of December. So I was thinking that typically our second meeting in December is conducted at noon. So wondering the week before what would work for at least 5 of you. I don't know if the 22nd will be a travel day for many of you, or if you want to shoot for the 20th or the 21st. City staff will be available all those days, so just wondering what may work for you. My suggestion would be Thursday the 21st at noon, pending this room being available, but want to be respectful of your calendars.
Works for me.
What'd you say, Commissioner?
I just said Wednesday or Thursday would work for me.
Either? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'll have Jean see what's available, and then we'll we'll have to set that meeting, so you'll get to see that again. But we only have a few meetings left this year, so we need to start thinking about that. And also as a reminder, your next meeting, October 23rd, our work session is starting at 5:30 not 6, 5:30. We're going to discuss the sign ordinance. We'll have some visuals for you. We'll have a memo as well, and we want to have enough time for some discussion. So hoping that an hour and a half is enough time to go over all that material. If not, of course, you can continue to have that discussion at another work session, place it on an agenda, and that may be the outcome of your discussion regardless, but want to make sure everyone heard that it's at 5:30 and not 6 o'clock. That's under your consent calendar tonight. Also, just if Chief Foote doesn't mind standing up for a second, he is wearing the pink and purple police patches. So October is a special month where we recognize that it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month and also Domestic Violence Month, and those are the colors that are representing those two very important things in our lives. So our officers, you will see them either wearing pink patches or purple patches, or if they can't decide which, they've got them both on their arms. So that's all of the announcements I have for you all, and if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take them. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, are there any questions for the city manager?
When was that meeting on the homeless that was mentioned in the city manager email?
Yes, that meeting is scheduled Wednesday, I believe, at noon. I want to say it's at Discovery Church with Pastor Jeff. Okay, at the Gathering Grounds area. So I think there's going to be representatives, not just from the city, but also community leaders from other places to visit about just how things are going and what we're seeing in our community.
Other questions of the city manager? I have one thing I just want to say before we move on. Speaking of South Dakota Municipal League, I want to thank City Manager Leon. For those that aren't aware, she finished officially serving her year as president of the South Dakota Municipal League by running the conference that was just held that we were recognized for those awards. So want to give her a round of applause and thank her for her leadership. There's no speech. That was given at the conference, and so. All right. I'm sure for a lot of us, having served as president of many boards and organizations that we have, know how nice it is to have that recognition and to have that leadership opportunity, and how nice it is to be past president. So again, thank you for your leadership there and for not only our community, but across the state. So with that, being there are no other questions, it appears, from the commissioners, we will move on to public appearance. We do have one scheduled public appearance tonight, so I would invite Sheriff Preston Chrissy to come to either microphone, if you would, and address the commission.
Well, good evening, everybody. Sheriff Chrissy. Some of you guys may have remembered me last year when you guys were approving my paychecks.
I was going to say, I think we used to have an employee by that name.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. But I just wanted to quickly, say thanks to the public for electing me last year. It's a great honor to be the sheriff of this county. A lot of history has happened here over the years, and so I wanted to make a public appearance. I've been to all the smaller towns in the county, and so I wanted to get to the city of Yankton. But you guys have much more important stuff on your plates. I've watched a few meetings, so just a few updates I wanted to give is that since I've been the sheriff, Chief Foote and I were trying to collaborate and build a relationship between the sheriff's office and the police department, and we're trying to share resources. So some things that we're exploring would be like our evidence rooms, maybe outdoor storage, just for like evidence integrity, just when there's a crime that occurs. There's defense attorneys in here that would appreciate that kind of stuff. So we're just looking at better ways to utilize space between the county and the city. The other hot topic at the government center, I would say, is the parking lot. So we're trying to find better ways to get more parking at the government center. So that's something else that we're looking at doing. And then otherwise, we've got a lot of irons in the fire. That's just like a brief few things. So I'll open up to public comment if you guys want to talk to me.
Sheriff, what would you say? I appreciate you working in partnership with Chief Foote and trying to figure out, a lot of times with limited resources, sometimes the way you can do more is to figure out those partnerships and do that. What are some other things that you're working on in the Sheriff's Department?
Well, just like I said, we were talking about technology is something else that we're trying to bring. I just wrote a grant for $24,000 and got approved for laptops. So the police department's had laptops for a long time just because I work there. So when we bring that stuff over to the sheriff's office, I know I've got somebody to knock on their door and have them come over and help us implement that because it's a big process. Body cameras for the public's perception. When body cameras are first brought in, as a police officer, I just kind of, the public doesn't believe us. It's been really good. It's acquitted a lot of officers for any false allegations, so it's good for the public trust. And so we just got those body cameras in 2 weeks ago, and implementing those are going to be kind of hard. But I know with the police department, they're looking at maybe different body cameras too. So we'll be the guinea pig for this new brand, and then maybe someday you guys will jump on board and then maybe look at the same kind of body cameras. So we're just trying to work collaborated, just hand in hand on different issues. So body cameras, laptops, parking lots, all those great things.
I just want to say, Sheriff, thank you. I think it's important, the collaboration between the Sheriff's Office and YPD. Again, sharing resources is important, and when we do that, we all win because you're keeping us safer with what you have to work with. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks,
Okay.
Chief Foote.
And we're also doing, last Friday, we did the Faith in Blue initiative where we did some fundraising for the SAC PAC programs at the school district. We almost had to call the fire department for a possible grease fire. But we didn't want to call the second responders.
I'm trying to figure out why Chief Foote's turning red back there.
Yeah. No, it was a good event. We raised a lot of money. And Chief Foote was graciously nice enough to invite the sheriff's office and Game Fish and Parks to help out with that program. So it was a good collaboration, and there's much more events that we're looking at doing. I think next year we'll do National Night Out. That's something that we did in the past, but we didn't do it this year. So, and COVID kind of ruined a lot of stuff. But so there's a lot of things that we're looking at doing. I don't have a list of them now, but I mean, there's so many stuff that we want to get done. And the relationship is good just because Foote's really easy to get along with, and so it's a good relationship. So.
And the good news is, Sheriff, when we do battle the badges, and you have like a larger pool of officers to pull from, so the firefighters don't always win.
This is true, unfortunately. Yes.
I know, I was going to say when Chief Foote said he could be a firefighter, I was wondering if he was going to go through basketball tryouts.
Now, I will say that when I participated in the city chili or the judging, I can't let reigning champions come back to win back-to-back years, so I may have to put an end to that. So.
All right, is there any other questions for the sheriff? Or?
Like the look on the vehicles, very classic look.
Oh yes, yeah. That's another thing we changed is trying to simplify things. Don't make it too over the top. And with the heat that we had last year, the old stickers are really hard to pull off, is what the collision center told me. So these ones should be easier to pull off eventually. But yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, thank you for all your good work and keep it up.
Yes, thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
keeping our community
guys.
safe.
You bet.
Not on your agenda, but in front of the commission tonight is another scheduled speaker who visited with us before the meeting. So I would call Wanda up. Wanda, for the millions that are listening online, if you could introduce yourself before you address the commission.
Thank you. Wanda Howie Fox, appearing before this commission, seeking to ask you folks to entertain an amendment to your ordinance. As you all may be aware, there's an ordinance here in Yankton, in the city of Yankton, that prohibits people from having farm animals within the city. And apparently there are folks who would like to have potbelly pigs. I know an individual who would like to have a pygmy goat, which is actually his emotional support animal. And unfortunately, because of the existing ordinance, he is not allowed to have that animal within the confines of the city. So what I'm suggesting is that the city commission amend its ordinance to allow the licensing of small, what others have claimed to be farm animals, but small pets, pygmy goats, potbelly pigs. I would suggest that they be licensed, that there be a fee for the licensing, that there be a maximum height requirement of 20 inches, and that there be a maximum weight limit of 40 pounds. That would prevent a situation wherein somebody such as myself, who wouldn't know the difference between a potbelly pig and a regular pig, would buy a regular pig, and then it would grow up to full pig size, and it would become a problem. I don't think any of us would want to have a Holstein steer or a Clydesdale horse or a full-size regular pig living next door. However, what I'm suggesting is that these pets be allowed, that they be licensed. If we have a maximum height limit and a maximum weight limit, it would keep out the larger farm animals. And I think that we're all aware that there are people in the city who have dogs that have Rottweilers, Great Danes, I'm waffling on whether or not Labradors are that big, but German Shepherds, and those are all bigger than 20 inches. If we could get this passed, this gentleman would be allowed to be able to keep his emotional support animal, and I think that there would be a couple of other people who would get their pygmy, or that would get their potbelly pigs, and I think that we could make this work for everybody.
All right, thank you. Technically, it's public appearance, but does anybody have a question for Wanda?
Well, I'd like to see it moved to an agenda for some commission discussion.
I'm okay with that. I need to know a date. And I can bring pictures of the pygmy goat and her licensing as an emotional support animal to provide to the commission.
Does the commission want to talk about it at a work session, or do you want to just put it on an agenda? I'm not familiar with what other communities do yet. I would have to do a little research, but your guys' call.
I'd be interested in some discussion before I draft anything, so I would prefer that, city manager.
So you mean work session? Okay. Would that be something I would be coming to?
Yes.
Then I would need to know a date.
Yes.
As long as it's
Our
not next
October
week.
work session is already full, as we just talked about in the city manager's report. That is on our city sign ordinance. We've been asked to have a discussion on that, so potentially November. Do we have a?
Are we doing video lottery?
No,
Did we say that we were going to do that before the end of the year? I can't remember.
no, you scheduled video lottery for a regular agenda.
According to the newspaper.
We already did that. Okay.
Yep, so just as per normal, our regularly scheduled work session for November would be the 27th, but I want to check with the commissioners since coming off a holiday weekend, we typically do a work session, but if everyone's okay with that, we'll get that ready. That should give us some good time as a staff too to figure out what other communities are doing, and then talk about, I want to talk with, also with YPD and Heartland Humane Society, and when anybody has an animal, we have good animal owners and animal owners that are not as good. So how we deal with those things when it comes to animals that are not typically dealt with by animal control. But they'll give us some time to look at that.
Okay.
So are we looking at the 27th then?
27th of
ma'am.
November
At 5:30?
at 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Unless, and we can let you know, unless once they start pulling information together, they feel that we'll need more than an hour to talk about it, which is why we're starting at 5:30 for the sign ordinance.
Okay.
Usually our work sessions are at 6, but if we
Okay.
would need to after Ross, Amy, and folks start pulling together information, if we need to move that up, we will, but we can let you know and we'll publish that.
I know Mr. Denherter knows where to find me.
And we'll have to set that work session, so that'll be public, because we'll have to set that. Mhm.
All right, perfect. Anything else to add to that, Wanda?
No, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in tonight. All right, we are now past the 2 public appearances that we planned on for this evening. Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to address the commission on something not on the agenda tonight? All right, seeing no movement, then we will move on to the consent agenda. Number 1 is setting the date of October 23rd, 2023 at 5:30 PM. Again, public and commission, please note the time of 5:30, as discussed several times tonight. So setting the time of 5:30 PM here in the City Commission chambers for our next work session of the Yankton City Commission, and again, that will be on the city sign ordinance. Number 2 is to establish October 23rd as the date for a public hearing on the request for a special events malt beverage on-sale retailer's license and a special on-sale wine retailer's license for one day, October 28th, 2023, from the center. Chris Thury, Executive Director, that is at 900 Whiting Drive. Number 3 is to establish October 23rd, 2023 as the date for a public hearing on the request for a special events malt beverage on-sale retailer's license and a special events on-sale wine retailer's license for one day, November 11th, 2023. Again, from the center, Chris Thury, Executive Director, located at 900 Whiting Drive. And number 4 then is the discussion to establish the date and time of the second City Commission meeting in December. And I believe we have enough direction to move that forward. What's your pleasure on the consent agenda? So moved. Second. We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Anybody abstaining? All right, consent agenda passed. Moving along then to old business. Number 1 under old business is consideration of memorandum 23-200 regarding the request for a transfer of a location of a retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license for July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024 from DBC LLC, doing business as Bro Burger Bar, Lauren Sokup, owner, at 304 West 3rd Street, to DBC LLC, doing business as Bro Burger Bar, Lauren Sokup, owner. That is a new location then at 2101 Broadway Avenue, Suite 40. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hanoff,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Moving on in the agenda then to new business. Number 1 is consideration of memorandum 23-193, recommending authorization of the city manager to execute the construction manager at risk CMAR contract. In front of you tonight is to award that to John T. Jones. And I'll turn it over to Kyle to kind of walk us through the process before I ask for the pleasure of the commission.
Good evening, Commission, Honorable Mayor. As you know, we kind of continue to be moving forward with our. Oh, is that better? All right. I was trying to hide. Again, like I said, we're moving forward with our wastewater treatment plant improvements and the project down there. Again, we continue to move forward with our first CMAR project. So happy to be here. It's taken us a little longer to get here than I expected with the contract. Again, with CMAR, it's a tool that we have to manage the project. Doesn't change inflation, doesn't change the market. It's just a tool that we can use in this instance. Currently, we have contracts with HDR in terms of doing project design for the project. We also have contracts with Tegra Group as a owner's rep and BBG Law for some legal review. Again, being our first CMAR project, we brought in a little extra help to get us through this process. Again, we advertised for proposals back in the end of March. We received 4 proposals in April. We went ahead and interviewed all 4 CMAR contractors in that process. Interview team consisted of representatives from HDR, Tegra, as the owners' reps, Ross, Amy, Adam, myself, and Tanner Hansen, the wastewater plant superintendent. The proposals were actually scored by Amy, Adam, myself, and Tanner were the scoring team. There was some financials that were involved in that. Those were reviewed by Ross and his team, and that was a pass-fail type deal. The fees were also sent directly to Ross, and then we did not review the fees and score the fees till after we had actually scored the proposals and the interviews.
I got a shout out to Lisa Yardley on that too, by the way.
Yep. So so they did quite a review on the company's financials and make sure they were in good standing there. Like I said, all 4 candidates were extremely qualified. We had really good candidates. Through that process, though, based on scoring, we did select John T. Jones. We've had a working relationship with them in the past. They were actually on site and back in 2000 for the last major project upgrades there, and they're on site right now with the current EDA project. So the contract's been reviewed by South Dakota DA&R and approved there. It's went through review from HDR and then also reviewed by BBG Law and Ross's staff. So we've had a lot of back and forth with us and the legal representations from John T. Jones. I'll give a shout out to Ross here. BBG Law has been excellent to work with, so I appreciate the time that Ross put into doing his research there and finding us a good law firm that had a lot of experience in construction contracts and things like that. So where that went well, again, this contract would be for the CMAR contractor. So as we move forward, you'll see bid packages coming out. Those bid packages will not come from the commission. The bid packages are put out by the CMAR contractor, and then the construction contract will actually be approved by the governing body, and that will include those amendments to this contract. So the contract's kind of designed to be amended. So you'll see some missing exhibits and things like that because we don't have a full scope of the project yet. So as we move into a construction phase, then you'll see that guaranteed maximum price contract come before you. Right now, we're looking at the potential of having multiple guaranteed maximum prices contracts because we'd like to get some of the construction moving ahead. We're a little bit behind where we want to be. One of the things John T. Jones did do was they guaranteed us a team. We knew who the team was going to be, but that also means they left their schedule open for us. So getting behind, it kind of puts them in a bind. So we want to get some of this work out going next year. So you'll most likely see multiple guaranteed maximum prices coming to you and amendments to the contract. Funding-wise, we've pretty much had everything approved by the state in terms of the procurement process and all of that, so we're good to go on the funding. Again, it is quite a bit of ARPA funds, so we're looking at a pretty tight timeline to get those ARPA funds spent, roughly $18 million in grant funds. So that's kind of where we're at with the project. Questions?
Thank you for running us through that. Questions from the commission? If not, what is the pleasure?
I have a quick question,
yep.
Kyle. Have you, knowing the lead times, the last time that you were here, I know we were talking about lead times on equipment. Has there been anything ordered with those longer lead times?
So no, we haven't got to that process yet.
Okay.
But that is one of the issues with wanting to get this contract
Yep.
approved, is we will have that ability. And that's one of the reasons CMAR is a great tool, is we can do some early procurement on some of that electrical equipment and
Perfect.
some of those things. One of the things we are looking at is when you hear early lead times of 52 weeks, then they turn around and come in at 20 weeks, and you need storage for that equipment if it does come in early.
Right.
So one of the packages, bid packages that might go out a little bit early ahead of a guaranteed maximum price would be potentially adding on to our shop so that we have some additional storage for that early procurement. So if things come in early, we have areas to store them. And also, it's going to be a really tight construction site down there, utilizing that shop for some temporary office space instead of bringing as many job site trailers. So you may see some early work done ahead of the guaranteed maximum price on that construction. But the major construction will happen with the guaranteed maximum price.
Okay. And I just want to say thank you to you and your staff. I know that as this project starts to ramp up, it's going to get pretty busy pretty quick. So thanks for all you're doing.
Any other questions for Kyle? Anybody else in the city? If not, what is the pleasure of the commission?
Move to approve the contract?
Second. We have a motion and a second, and now that we do, are there questions or clarification or anything related to that from the commission? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Hanoff,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. And I look forward to, I know I shared with the media on Friday as we were discussing using John T. Jones. I thought they did a great job on their water treatment plant. So they're very familiar with our community, the city staff, and I think will be good partners for us to work with on this. So thanks for your work on that. Number 2 under new business is consideration of memorandum 23-191 regarding resolution 23-60, a grant agreement for the receipt of funds from the South Dakota Department of Transportation for the Industrial Park Road Grant for Gale Drive improvements. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions from the commission as tied to this and our work as we continue to work on that at the Gale development? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hanoff,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 3, under new business, is consideration of memorandum 23-194, recommending the Meridian Bridge concrete pier repair project to be awarded to JMN Construction, LLC, in the amount of $433,035. This is to fix work needing to be done on 4 different pier locations. In your commission packet, you will see that that is a bid that's coming in over the estimate. So maybe I will start with City Manager Leone to walk us through this and anything that we need to know since we are seeing this coming in over the estimate.
Thank you, Mayor. And Adam's here too, if you have some technical questions about the repair. We do have money in both bridge repair budget because of some of the grants that we were not successful in receiving for 23rd Street Bridge, I believe, and there was another bridge. So we do have money budgeted to cover this cost. Also, you know, there is money in the 506, so these types of things are a little less easy to estimate in terms of cost because we're not dealing with certain material and then extrapolating out per linear foot. A repair is something different, and a repair on an old bridge is even something different than that. But the bridge is our responsibility to maintain, and we certainly want to make sure that we have you know, the conditions met for pedestrian use that we're all used to. So that's why we're recommending approval of this, and wanted to let you know that you can feel confident if you agree with moving forward with the repair that there is money provided for in the budget because of some of the other things we were unsuccessful with, and there is, of course, balance in the 506 too.
Amy or Adam obviously assume, one, that the bridge is still safe when you're talking 4 piers that need to be fixed. And so, one, assuming it's safe. 2, when would we anticipate, if awarded tonight, the work would begin on this?
So I can let Adam talk about the timeline, and I'll just say about the use of the bridge. You know, it's our responsibility to maintain that bridge, and we have a maintenance schedule. We monitor the bridge and the condition of the bridge regularly, and we keep up on those maintenance items like the underwater inspections that we brought for you before, et cetera. So, you know, it's too early to conduct that full inspection. However, these types of things that we're bringing forward to you this evening, and along with our other maintenance that we provide regularly, should allow us to continue to use the bridge for pedestrian use.
Yes, and if approved tonight and weather permitting, the work could begin late October. So, and the contract allows 45 days for completion once the contractor begins. So we just have to see how that plays out if they did start in October, but it could be a rather quick repair, so.
And the repair on these 4 piers, was that something detected in one of our inspections or just by city staff? Or how was that detected? And we've identified 4, so we're assuming everything else is good to go?
So a few years ago, it was discovered that there was some pretty significant scaling on one of the piers on the south side of the bridge, and it looked like a slab was going to fall off of one of the piers. That's what initiated this. We worked with local contractor to see if he could make the repairs, but he just didn't feel comfortable with it once he started digging into it. So we worked with JEO Engineering to put a project together, and as they were looking at that one, they kind of reviewed all of them. And there's another one further south of the initial one that has the same type of repair needed, and the other 2 are a little more just cosmetic on the surface, so they're a lighter repair. One more on the Nebraska side and then one on the South Dakota side. So tried to take care of all of them that needed work while the contractor was going to be here. So.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the commission? If not, what's your pleasure with this agenda item?
Move to award the contract to JMN Construction.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further commission discussion on this? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hunoff.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
And Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 4, under new business, is consideration of memorandum 23-195, recommending the approval of change order number 4, accepting the completed Martin Creek Bank Stabilization Project and authorizing the finance officer to issue a manual check to Fenton Construction, Inc. in the amount of $153,143.86. That is a cost share project that we had, where 75% is paid by the feds, 10% the state, and then the 15% that's being asked of you tonight is the city's portion of that. But then we should be able to close that out as it's being done. So what is the pleasure of the commission?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this? Happy to see a decrease, actually. I mean, I know we didn't have to pay the whole part of it, but happy to see a decrease in a project as well. But, and thanks to Adam and Dave and everybody, I know this has been a labor of love for sure. I know we were always going back and forth. Can we get the trail back in? It was really important to our community to try to get that trail back in, and through acquisition of some land and things like that, I'm really excited that we were able to get that done and get that trail back in. So I would want to say that, but then want to see if there's anybody else from the commission that has a question or anything to mention there.
I would just like to echo those sentiments. You know, it's wonderful to see that get things back
after the, that March storm and the damage that it did to our infrastructure. But our infrastructure did what it was supposed to do. It sacrificed itself for the betterment of the community, and it's nice to see that it gets back. As someone who rides the bike trail on a pretty regular basis, I very much enjoy it. My son rides it, so for him to be able to go to Beetle School from where we live, he rides the trail system through there, and it's a wonderful thing, and it's also a fantastic thing for our community, for the safety of our community, for those types of events.
Anybody else on the commission? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Hanoff,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
and Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 5 under new business is consideration of memorandum 23-197, recommending the proposed selection procedure of the 12th package off-sale liquor license holder. And so I'll probably ask City Manager Leone to walk us through what's being put in front of you tonight as related to the 12th package off-sale liquor license.
Certainly, Mayor. So as you will recall, Commissioners, we discussed the 12th off-sale liquor license being available, and you all had indicated that you felt like that was something that you would like to look into. So no commitments here. So any of these things can change, but if you'd like to have that available here at the first of the year, we need to get moving a little bit because we have certain publication dates that we have to meet and want to make sure that we provide notice, et cetera. So we have a schedule there. If you were to provide approval this evening, we would get the legal notice published tomorrow. We would do a bid opening, and then we would, send that conditional award to the highest bidder. You would have to actually set a date for that public hearing, hold a public hearing for that. So we have a sample of the public notice there in your bid packet we attached. We put the minimum bid of $50,000 plus non-refundable application fee of $100. There's nothing magical about $50,000. Sioux Falls sold one recently for $100,000. I heard, maybe 25,000 is right, and I heard from someone else maybe 100,000 is right. So I thought, I'm going to go down the center road, 50, and you guys can tell us yes or no. Just because you receive, bids doesn't mean you have to award, of course. But if you set that minimum, you'll at least get a certain amount. So the state requires that you have at least $300. We don't recommend that as a staff. This is, there's a lot of value probably to an off sale. We have had inquiries about the off sale liquor from a number of parties already. So there is interest, and if that makes any difference in your discernment on what level you'd want to set for a minimum bid. I think that's the only real question we have as a staff from you as to the public notice. And then if you have any questions for us, we're happy to, answer those or let you know why something's in here the way it is. But Lisa and Ross have worked on this, so we think it's in order as long as we know what dollar amounts you want to work with.
I'd be interested to know kind of the consensus of the commission. I would think that minimum bid should be about 100,000.
Thoughts from commissioners on that? On your thoughts on the 50 or 100,000 or anywhere in between?
Do we know with the Sioux Falls, so the Sioux Falls had a $100,000 bid. Do we know what their minimum bid was? Did they have a minimum
I think
bid?
they had a minimum of 500, and they got a range from 10,000 to 100,000. So, when you're talking off-sale liquor, this could be anything from a small retail convenience some of them have kind of, I call them liquor nooks, I'm sure that's not the technical, but little areas where they sell liquor, and then it's the same, that's the same license. If somebody were to do a warehouse or a big store, or like Hy-Vee's larger area where they sell spirits. So, it could be a real revenue generator if it was a larger retailer as well, so.
But in Sioux Falls' instance, the market dictated it, right? It was set at 500 and it ended up at $100,000 because that's what the market supported.
Yeah, we presume so.
They followed us.
The other thing to think about with, this is just, it's for your thought processes. These are based on population growth. We haven't had one in 10 years. I don't know when the last time we had another one. Al's shaking his head, so it was before his time. 1980s, right? So, we're growing. I don't know how likely it is we'll have another in the next short-term future. So that's just something to consider too. It's only going to come around once in a while. So in that respect, the higher bid minimum, you can always lower it if you don't get anyone to bid on it as well. And we wouldn't be ready for the first of the year, but that's an option too.
As I sat here looking at this, and I think at least 75,000. And again, that's just kind of pulling a number out of a hat. But I really do believe it's going to go for much, much more than that. Maybe I'm wrong.
So I'll actually say that was the number that was popping in my head because it was right in between the two. So I could get comfortable with that pretty easily.
Once the commission has settled on where they would like to go, Mayor, the motion should be made to approve with the base bid amount, whether it's 75 or 100 or wherever you end up.
I would imagine it's just like real estate. You can put a price on it and people will pay what they want to pay, no matter what that listed price is, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I agree. I think it's going to go for more. I think the number we pick is more or less arbitrary, but you don't want to set it too low just in case there's the one-off that somebody gets a really good deal on a liquor license. So 75, 100, I'm indifferent. I'd go with wherever the group is.
Any other questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the commissioner?
Maybe we just go high, and we always can rerun it. So what's the consequence of not having it right for the first of the year?
They just have a shorter term for their license. We just thought it'd be nice for whoever if somebody, the likelihood of somebody being ready to be up in business right away isn't probably pretty high either. So
Right.
it just wouldn't be a full, and you could probably even prorate it if you wanted to, if you ended up changing it and bidding it out again.
Just remember, though, it's just the buy-in, you know what I mean? So it's the right to have it, so the
Correct.
actual license renewal is only $500.
Right.
So I don't think we'd want to prorate if it's like 100,000, but they're a month in, we reduce it by
Okay.
a 12th, you know what I mean? But point is well
If
taken.
no one bids on it, though, you can lower it and,
Yes, all you lose is time, that's all. So I have no heartburn.
was that no, you didn't make a motion, did you? Okay.
I think we'll get the bids. I think 100. Why not?
Said with authority. I like it, Commissioner Minor.
Well, go let Brian make the motion. He had the initial number.
I'll make the motion to set the minimum bid at 100,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and now understanding the minimum bid being asked, are there questions or comments from the commission?
Just want to, looking up and down here, everyone okay with the timeline? Okay.
And this will be out for notice in writing, in like the newspaper, but also on the city website, or how's, okay.
Other commission discussion, questions? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Weber.
Aye.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hanoff.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye. Motion carries. And you all have then what you need to.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, all right, then we will move on to number 6 under new business is consideration of memorandum 23-198, requesting guidance from the commission in proceeding with an area of the cemetery ground not yet formally platted. I'm going to ask City Manager Leone to walk us through what's being requested here and the guidance she needs.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. We had a citizen approach our Parks Department relating to the area of the cemetery, which you have in your map. And if for those of you familiar with our city cemetery, you'll know where we're talking about. There is a small hill in sort of the center area of the cemetery with a large tree on it. There's been a question as to whether or not the city would be willing to plot that for cemetery plots. And we didn't know the answer to that. What it used to hold was a water tower. We're not sure if there's any footings or anything there. So in order to move forward, we'd have to hire some type of geotechnical firm probably to take a look and see what's happening there, if there's anything there. Also, there would be a cost to survey that area. So, that's something we could probably absorb in our budget, but we just haven't ever had any discussion on that. So we're curious if you want to have this area of the cemetery platted and available for sale. If you want this area to be used for full and cremains burials, or only cremains burials, or only full burials, I suppose. Should these spaces be sold at the same cost? And the reason why you say that is if you haven't been out there, and if you don't make a decision tonight, you might want to go out there. It is a very picturesque sort of area, and would be a nice placement. If that's, I'm trying to be sensitive here for the terms that I'm using, but I think that's correct for you to place your loved one. So, should they be at a higher cost? Should there be any covenants placed there on marker type, height, or material? It is elevated, so, do you want to put any type of covenants? And are there any other things that you want to consider about the area? So at the time we wrote the memo, we want to be responsive to people that ask us questions, but we've contacted the surveyor. We don't know yet, I don't believe, the cost that they would charge to do the survey work. And we also don't have the cost of the geotechnical work that would need to be done. So if the answer tonight is just, we want to, maybe we're interested, but we want to know about the cost, that's okay too. But we did want to bring it forward for consideration. We don't have as much information yet as we would like either. But if it's an absolute hard no, then we can tell the individual that as well.
Approximately how many lots could fit into that space?
Todd, sure, cemetery expert, Todd Larson. I think it would be, do you need a full plot for a cremain, Todd?
No, the burial space needed for cremains is quite small compared to a full burial. So if you look at that map, we, in our best guesstimate without surveying it, and if you have been out there and drive around, it is a mound. There's a steep slope all the way around the edge. So we believe maybe, and as you look at the image there, each of those small rectangles is a lot. So we think we could go 2 blocks wide, maybe 3. Each block has 6 lots. Each lot has 6 graves. So 72 graves, maybe. And again, depending on what the surveyor helps us as we
Regular
measure.
size graves?
Yeah,
Full.
full-size graves. Now, if we wanted to go only cremains, then we could go back and talk about, well, what size would we make each grave space, and how does that fit into the lots and the block system, and we could work through that, but.
How many available lots do we currently have that are already platted?
Hold on one second. I got to think of where I have that. Probably easier for me to find it this way.
Just while you're looking that up too, I do happen to know, and having some vendors, a lot of cities have cemeteries, so I did actually speak to some vendors associated with cemetery things at the conference. Cremation is really becoming a more and more popular choice, and I believe Chris Bourne has told me at our cemetery we're seeing a lot more of that as well. I think it's more economical and just more popular. So if that's something valuable for you to know for the future planning of our cemetery.
Yeah, it's a trend that's definitely growing. I'm also curious, Todd, with the lots that are currently plotted, how many years of life does the cemetery have? I think I read something a while
Yeah,
back,
what
200
did we
years
do-
worth.
What year did we do most of that work?
And sorry, the purpose of my question was just trying to understand what we have available to, whether or not we're going to have to be pursuing this eventually
No,
anyway. So we're thinking about
I think it's a really fair question, Commissioner Benson, because, this is something we can do, but we're certainly not at a point where, unless, we hear differently from Todd, but I believe when we were talking about the sale of that frontage area of the cemetery, we talked about having so many years already platted. So we're not in a need for more lots, an immediate need, but, people do like to pre-plan, and many people like to see what's available and choose. This particular individual saw this and it's like, well, this is a really nice place.
Yeah, go ahead. I think he's still looking to answer Bridget's question, so I think that's what he's furiously scanning over there.
All right.
I don't think it's the Monday Night Football score, so I think we're good.
I would be in favor of looking into this. I think it's something that would be good for the community to think about, and get with folks and see what folks' what their thoughts are on it. The one thing that I didn't see in it, and I'm gonna excuse me for not knowing the terminology, mausoleum, columbarium,
Columbarium. So we've talked before in strategic planning about, is there ever a time where we want to invest in a columbarium, or maybe even a space where cremains are more in a marked sort of patio, for lack of a better term right now, that people have actually a place to visit, but it's also actually a nice, area with benches, et cetera. So, if that's still on the commission's mind, is part of that space something where that would be of an interest? I think now folks that have cremains in our private cemetery, or in our public cemetery, they're there with their marker. There's no specific spot, and they're not, some cemeteries kind of have them together or have these types of things. And the vendor that I spoke to was from Ontario, but they build these, they're not mausoleums, but they're more or less small mausoleums for cremains, but they're elevated and kind of, then you can, visit, have a place to actually physically visit, and they're vertical, so they're above ground. But all those things, is a lot broader discussion, but that was something we talked about a number of years ago, as something maybe we wanted as a capital project at some point for our city cemetery.
Yeah, I went out this last weekend just because it was on the agenda and wanted to see it, firsthand, just so I had a better understanding. And it is. It's a small area. It's not a very large turnaround. If you're familiar with the roads out there, everything's pretty tight. But it would be, I don't know. I think that it would be good to pursue, to look at and see what people in the community want for. It's a public cemetery. It's all of ours. It'd be nice to know what the community would like to have.
I'd be curious too, just given the size of the space and the grade, that it's steep, I would be curious, following up on what Amy just said, if it's possible to do some platting, or if it's not possible to do some sort of a feature. There's a really nice fountain over on the northwest side that's rather large, that's rather lovely, that provides beautiful ambient sound for a huge area of the cemetery. So would something like that be worth pursuing? I'd have a question about that.
Well, I haven't had a ton of luck with water features lately, but yeah, we could certainly talk about that at strategic planning. And maybe there doesn't necessarily have to be a motion if there's direction that we want to continue to look into the cost of these things, get some more information about years we have. We can bring it back. We can tell the individual that the commissioners are going to get some input from the public too. And as you talk, it's not immediate. There's not a loved one that needs to be buried at this time. So we can certainly do a little more looking into it.
Perfect. I think that's.
Yeah, I cannot. Dave would have, I think you guys wrote the last memo, but I had the original letter, and I cannot.
Okay, well, I think it
We'll
sounds
look into
like the flavor of the commission right now is to just do a little bit more checking into it and seeing what our options are and what's there, and then we can go from there.
We'll keep working on
okay.
it, and we'll tell the person that there's some interest, and if you all will talk to constituents and see what you hear and give us some feedback, that'd be helpful.
Awesome.
Sorry that I couldn't find that.
Could I chime in real quick too, please? I just want to say too, if it's that, I haven't been out there and I'll have to go look at it, but if it is that a little more elevated space, and I agree with Ben and Amy that maybe it's a spot where, I know we're going to look into this, but maybe there's more of a feature there that more people can take advantage of and have it more of a spot to visit and sit. It sounds like, I think what Ben had mentioned earlier, or that it's a very nice view, just a very nice spot. So that's all. Thanks.
Perfect. And we don't need a motion for that, correct? We're just, okay, perfect. So we'll keep digging into that and seeing what the opportunities are. So, yeah. Yeah, because I think too, the other thing is we got to know what's under there and what we might uncover if we would start digging for anything we might want to do there, with that being a past space of a water tower. So, all right. Moving on then to number 7 is consideration of memorandum 23-192, recommending approval of resolution 23-61, setting a new solid waste collection rate effective November 1st, 2023. The increase proposed tonight is $2.39 a month. So it would bring the bill from $23.61 to $26 even. As notated in your packet and in front of the commission tonight, this is just solid waste collection, so water utility and wastewater and sewer utilities. There is not an increase being proposed tonight for that. This is just solid waste. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Can I ask a question, or do you want to wait for
Sure.
the motion? So that's a substantial increase. It doesn't look like much in dollars, and I can appreciate the appeal of a round number, but a 10% increase isn't a small percentage, and I'm wondering, when was the last time we increased them?
I think that we increased them last year. 2020.
Does that answer your question,
Yes,
Commissioner?
thank you.
Okay, yeah. I saw your mic was still on, so I didn't know if you're, I'm going to ask another question. Any other questions from the commission in relation to this? If not, what is the pleasure of the commission?
So moved. Second?
We do have a motion and a second, and now that we have a motion and a second, is there any commission discussion or questions? Anybody in the public?
Mayor Moser.
Oh, sorry.
If we increase this, is this, if I'm reading this correctly, our operating revenues should cover the cost versus having to get a loans to cover the cost to operate. Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly in here, that?
Say the question again,
So
Mason.
our options are to increase the cost to help offset the expenditures, or to get loans to offset the expenditures. Is that how I'm?
Yeah, I
reading that one?
mean, the rates are for both the funds that we borrowed through joint powers for capital, and then also operational costs. So as we increase, personnel services, for example, or utilities, all those things work into the increases.
I guess the point I'm trying to understand is, this would be a more cost-effective way than trying to get a loan to cover the same loss.
Yeah, in our enterprise funds where we are able to adjust rates to cover the costs, that's what we do. If there's a balance, then we don't propose an increase.
Other questions from the commission? Sorry.
Do we feel pretty comfortable then that this 10% raise is going to cover the deficit entirely and for maybe some time? I know there's no crystal ball, but
Yeah, well, it's difficult, Commissioner Villanueva, in that equipment is getting more and more expensive and the projects are coming in more, higher. But what we try to do is look out into the future with Vermillion in the joint powers and see, what do we believe we're going to need to purchase capital-wise, and what do we think our operational increases are going to cost. This was also part of your, your 2024 budget, so we talked about those rates there as well. It wouldn't be typical for us to make an increase mid-year. That would only happen, I would think, if we would have some type of catastrophe. But, there might be a situation if we experience high inflation where we just say, we have to hold off on this piece of equipment. We just don't think we're going to have enough funds there.
okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of the commission? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Benson.
Aye.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hanoff.
Aye.
Minor.
Aye.
Schramm.
Aye.
Villanueva.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. Number 8 under new business is consideration of memorandum 23-196, recommending the purchase of a new articulating loader from Sourcewell contract for the Department of Public Works. In front of you tonight is to replace a 2008 Volvo L90F loader with a 2024 Volvo L90H2 loader. The cost of that is $229,381, of which $225,000 was budgeted. What is your pleasure?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Brunick.
Aye.
Hanoff.
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. And number 9 under new business is consideration of memorandum 23-199, recommending the adoption of resolution 23-49, approving the pledging of water revenues to the water surcharge fund. Amy, maybe you could walk us through what's being asked tonight as part of this.
Yes, so one of your discussions in 2022, when we talked about this year's budget, was that we would pay off our drinking water SRF loans 1 through 4. And so we've done that. The current water consumption revenues will pay off now the new SRF loan fund. And we're getting ready to start that water meter project. And so we need to pledge some funds into the surcharge fund. So our goal is to assess the surcharge rate and the water consumption rate at the end of those projects, and we'll make adjustments accordingly. But for the time being, in order to borrow that money, we need to fund that actual surcharge fund. So that's what we're asking for you to do tonight. And I don't know if Al wants to give more detail or not, but we did talk about this, but it was a while ago. So some of you weren't here and some of you may not remember.
Thank you for that. Questions of the commission? Seeing no mics, come on, what is the pleasure of the commission?
So moved.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Having that, is there any commission discussion? Anybody in the public? Roll call.
Hanoff,
Aye.
Minor,
Aye.
Schramm,
Aye.
Villanueva,
Aye.
Weber,
Aye.
Benson,
Aye.
Brunick,
Aye.
Mayor Mosher.
Aye, motion carries. We do not have any other business. and
Mayor Mosher, I have one quick item
Oh.
under other business.
Oh, okay.
Do you prefer to be notified beforehand if we have something like that, or I just was going to bring it up now, but city manager made note of this at the start of the meeting, but today is Native American Day, and it's an important holiday. It's a day to recognize the people who lived here thousands of years before Columbus ever stepped foot on this land. It's a day to celebrate the American Indian legacy of fortitude and strength. It's a day to honor Indian culture's harmony with nature and the strong Native belief that all humans are inherently good and deserve respect. And it's a day to remember the resilience of Native people and the many injustices they endured, such as the Wounded Knee Massacre, the hundreds of treaties our government made with the tribes and did not honor. And it's a day to reflect on challenges Native Americans continue to face in society today. Now, today in Yankton, there was no mail delivery. The banks were closed. There was no classes in the Yankton School District. There were no classes at Mount Marty University. And the school board meeting was moved to tomorrow night because this is Native American Day. And I believe government should lead by example. Today in Yankton, our school offices, our state offices, federal offices, county offices were all closed. The one exception, of course, was Yankton City Hall, where the offices were open. And Yankton is a Class A city. We're one of 10 South Dakota cities over 13,000 population. And the other 9 largest cities in the state, their city halls were closed today to observe Native American Day. And we are also the only, for the record, we're also the only South Dakota city among the 10 largest that does not close to officially observe and honor Juneteenth. And we're one of just 2 of the 10 largest cities, Rapid City being the other, that is open on Martin Luther King Day. And by not closing to observe these days, we may be unintentionally sending the message that we do not respect or honor these 3 holidays as much as other Class A cities in South Dakota. So I'm just asking if we could add our 2024 holiday schedule to the next meeting agenda for consideration of adding at least Native American Day and possibly all 3 of these important holidays to the others that are observed and honored by the city of Yankton. This is something I discussed with the city manager and city attorney during my orientation 6 months ago, so they shouldn't be totally surprised by this. But I think it's an important thing to recognize these days. If you're not convinced that these are important holidays to be officially recognized by the city, you can look at the issue through the lens of employee benefits. You know, we all agree that it's important to make this an attractive place to work because personnel and human resources are vitally important in this day and age. So you can view it as a way to make the city's holiday schedule more attractive to job applicants or just better in terms of employee retention. So that's all I'm asking is just to add the discussion of the holiday schedule for 2024 to the next agenda.
That'd be up to the city commission. Our holidays are negotiated with our labor unions, so if you all are looking to discuss them, that would require, and if there's direction from the commission, that'd require renegotiation with our employee unions. And perhaps you would want to also then add your the personal days discussion, since personal days have been allocated in the union negotiations with the employee input. So that might be something you also want to consider as well. And/or we can wait and renegotiate holidays when the contracts are up. But we've just, I believe we have contracts through 2025. Ross, is that correct?
At least through 24. I think it goes through 25. Just so the commission is aware too, when we had negotiations and this was brought up, the union said, yes, we liked that, but instead of giving us those holidays, can you make it floating holidays? Because of schedules, it was basically in lieu of having these specific days, they bartered for holidays that they could use at different times.
Well, when I checked with the other large cities to verify that they were all closed, I did not ask what kind of policy or benefit they have in terms of flex days for holidays. But I'm not, certainly not advocating we take anything away from the employees in terms of these 3 days they have, these flex days. I'm advocating adding one, or preferably in my case, in my opinion, all 3. And I don't think the employees union is going to object to us adding these 3 holidays as long as we don't affect their flex days. That these holiday days off, although there is some cost associated in terms of, obviously we still have to pay the police officers who are on duty, holiday pay and so forth. It's one of the least costly employee benefits you can give, because if you're working 4 days that week instead of 5, you're still going to get that week's work done. And so in that sense, it's a very cost-effective benefit.
Our holidays, 4th of July and Labor Day, cost us with overtime, because those that do work get a holiday pay, right around the neighborhood of $40,000. So 34.5 for straight time, and then about 7 for overtime. Now, winter holidays can be different if we have a snow experience. That can make it a lot different. So the commission can direct us what we want to do. The process would be, if you guys discuss it, ask us to do something different, we would go open up a negotiation. There's a self-serve, there's a benefit to all of us, me included here. So I really don't want to navigate the conversation on this one. So you all tell us what it is you want to do. If you want to discuss it, we can also visit with our stewards of the unions and see. They may come back and say we'd rather have more personal days, and then.
I would not advocate that.
That's
taking anything away. I'm advocating adding these important holidays.
Correct. Yeah, I understand where you're coming. They may come back, and that's where the negotiation would come in. If they would say, "Oh, well, we appreciate 3 days," we would let you know.
All right, so maybe I guess you could start there. And is that what you're saying you could do?
Yeah, I can schedule it for a future agenda or come back, talk to the stewards and see what employees are thinking, or if it's only, just, if the commission feels it's just these days and not days versus personal days, then
I guess I'd like to hear from the rest of the commission, if there's direction or your thoughts on this.
Well, personally, I would prefer hearing about this ahead of time. I don't like getting this dropped right at the end of a meeting. I'd like to have time to discuss it and think about it.
Well, I'm just suggesting we put it on a future agenda to do that. I'm using this opportunity to get it to the agenda.
Yeah, and if we put it on the agenda, we could get some more information together on it and see what other cities have for personal days as well.
I appreciate the sentiment of it, and I think it's important. I also appreciate that it's complicated with negotiations. So I guess the best way to proceed initially, in my opinion, without having had a lot of time to think about it, would be to see if you could investigate with the stewards and see what kind of interest there is, and also see how long our contracts. You said we're good through 24, possibly 25?
I think they go to 25.
So an initial investigation, I guess, is I think where to start.
Okay, yeah. Other commissioners, any direction here?
I would agree with that. I think it would be good to talk to the union stewards and see what they have to say, but I do appreciate the sentiment of Commissioner Hunoff's. For sure, we do not want to take anything away, but I think if your sentiment is that these days should be the days that are off, then again, let's not, I don't know if adding 3 extra days of flex pay or flex days off is what you're looking for. You're specifically looking for these days off, correct?
For the city to recognize these the way they do other holidays by closing City Hall in honor and respect for the holiday.
Okay. Yeah, so I'd like to see the discussion.
They're through 2025.
I guess I'd be in favor of having the discussion also. I do think that it may take a little bit more time than having it on the next agenda, but I do appreciate, the sentiment and think that it's a valuable thing to discuss and look at all of the different moving parts of that and see if we can come to some good conclusions.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Brunick. We've got pretty heavy lifting to do on our next agenda, so I'll probably schedule that on the 11th.
Thank you.
Is there any other business to be discussed tonight in front of the City Commission? All right, having no other business, before I ask for you to adjourn, for those that didn't notice, Lisa survived her first meeting, so we did have our city interim finance officer up front with us tonight, so I thank Lisa for giving that a go around, and for Al smiling the whole time in the audience, so appreciate you being here as well as we look to continue our transition as we've talked about in that position. So wanted to give a shout out there. So with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Anybody abstaining? We are adjourned. Have a good evening, folks.